Hi there, Kevin Sylvester,
Basil Sylvester.
and we did this together,
We did it.
the Fabulous Zed Watson.
The Fabulous Zed Watson.
We were asked a question about how we were going to talk about this in schools.
Yeah, do you want to pull up the
Sure,
exact question
I
just to
will.
make
I
sure?
will pull up the exact question. But talk a little bit about what you think we would do in schools to talk about this book with people. And the question came to us from another open book. I know you're big on school visits. You connect with kids in a big way. How do you think you might navigate bringing this title subject and your passion into kids' lives with everything looking so different? Well, part of it is this. I think we want to make sure that these are kid-friendly videos that kids who are interested in the book or in Zed or the characters can come watch these. So that's part of it. Already had some schools approach us to ask about you and I doing joint presentations about it.
Yeah.
And, well, sorry, go ahead. What would you like to say if you were talking to a kid about this book?
I mean, one of the emails, like, they were saying that the kids, that some of the kids are non-binary. So I think part of it is, like, I think there's a certain idea that when you bring these books to kids, especially around LGBTQ topics, that it might be new to them.
Which is shocking in
Still,
some ways.
like, this is for, like, ages 8 to 12-ish.
It's middle grade. It's a middle grade
yeah,
novel.
it's middle grade. That's a marketing term, though. Like, no one knows what that means. But as a bookseller, I used to be like, oh, it's middle grade. And be like, I don't know what that means. So it's like, no, so it's like 8 to 12. And I think when you're that age, like, you're already thinking, you're already figuring yourself out. And I think there's a lot of things that kids know already intuitively that maybe they don't have the words for, but, like, they're not necessarily, like, it's not sort of a huge shock to them in like a bad way when people talk about it, where they're like, well, they don't know about X, so why are we telling them about it? And I think they do know about it. I think, like, when I was younger, I would say, like, I didn't know I was non-binary, because I just didn't have sort of the vocabulary, but also, like, I was weird. So basically, what I think, the way that I would address it in schools is, I think, to approach it in a similar way that we approached writing the book, which is, like, the entry point is not that this is a book about a kid who is non-binary necessarily. It's that this is a fun adventure story with a non-binary kid in it.
A road trip.
Yeah, like, there's
mystery.
a lot. It's so, I think part of the good thing about A, middle grade, and B, the way that we wrote this book, is that in the book, Zed's already come out to their family, at least, and they've just kind of said, like, I'm non-binary, I don't, I'm trans, and I don't necessarily identify with a gender, and I want, like, please use they, them for me. An important part of that is, for kids, is, like, it's almost like the what comes after.
That's good.
Where YA books are often, I think,
about that process.
Understandably, because I think that's when it's assumed that you're doing that thinking through, which, I mean, that was true for me, like, when I was Zed's age, like, I think I was just weird, and didn't sort of realize that part of that sort of sense of not fitting in did have to do with gender.
But part of it, writing a book like this, too, is to give, maybe this is this is why kids need to see these questions in books, is because kids can sense,
right,
feel the difference.
Kids are naturally curious. Right, kids are naturally curious, first of all, and I think part of the discussion, especially lately, around gender and stuff, has been like, well, these we don't want to sort of put ideas in these kids' heads, to sort of go the negative route. But I think the interesting thing that and I certainly know this from my group of friends and, like, from growing up, is, like, it's important for kids to it's important for kids who might be non-binary to see that Zed as a non-binary character is just like doing fine, and they're it's one part of their personality, and it's not, or one part of their identity, and it's not like the basis of the book. But I think it's also important for like basically all kids to sort of start having ideas, getting ideas about gender, because I know a lot of friends that I've had who, because they hang out with me, because they know me, sort of realized that they were cis almost.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think like giving kids options and showing kids all kinds of like Zed's obviously the main character, but we also have Gabe, who is also questioning a lot of things, and
Mm-hmm.
he has conversations with Zed where he's sort of questioning stuff about gender.
Trying to figure it, yeah.
And I think that's sort of a natural place to start, is just having questions about things. Like asking questions is okay.
Anybody can read this book.
Yeah.
And then I think what your point about Gabe is valid, because Gabe is in some ways the lens of your friends. Zed is maybe your lens. Maybe Gabe is my lens. Like, and that we're all looking at these questions, because it's not just Zed. There's Sam and Joe and other characters in the book, and the monsters who are in the book, which we can talk about in a separate video. But like the idea that all of them are in some ways, I don't know, it's not challenging. It's like, I think what you said, it's getting them to get a vocabulary that allows them to ask the questions that they're naturally asking.
Yeah. And so there's he doesn't know me, but there's an author that I really like, who used to be a teacher librarian. His name's Kyle Lukoff, and he's trans, and he's written a couple books. Like he wrote, I think it was a picture book about a trans kid, and some of his stories about like touring it around and stuff are like extremely inspiring, because he has asked, like he'll be like, do you know what transness is? And like kids will be like, oh yeah. Like, oh yeah. And like I think he had a really cute story the other day of like he was saying something, or like some adult in the room kind of like made a mistake, and the kids were like, well actually, you know no, it's being non-binary is when you don't whatever.
Yeah.
And it's like, I think that like stories like that really make me smile, because I'm like, that's kind of my experience with like especially in my family. Like I have I have a 10-year gap between me and my youngest cousin, and so I grew up with a lot of kids around me that were quite a bit younger. And so I remember when I came out, like who was the one who was correcting everyone? It was Darcy. Like she was correcting her friends, being like, well, Baz used like
that's right,
they them pronouns, and like people I know, like all my little cousins were the ones who were like, well, sometimes people don't feel like a girl or boy. And I just think that's so, like...
amazing,
and,
actually.
Yeah, like, and that's kind of why I'm like, I think the kind of question, like, well, how are you going to approach this in schools, I think has a lot more to do with adult reactions than kid reactions.
Yes, that's an excellent way to
frame that.
And so,
I think... I mean, personally, like, people... It's not kids who are being mean to me.
Yeah.
All the nasty comments, not that I get a ton, but the nasty comments I'm getting are from adults. So, like, you're intentionally creating a culture where these kids are not being allowed to be as empathetic as they naturally are.
Yes, an excellent point.
And so, if we were to sort of have issues with the transness,
which we might,
I was saying, get an
ebook.
Get an ebook.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it's harder to tell what you're reading when it's on an ebook.
This is why one of the many reasons I love libraries, and especially school libraries,
right.
is that those librarians know the kid that needs the book, that maybe someone in their school is like, no, don't give that kid a book like that.
Right. And so I think what's important is to either find adults who you trust,
Yeah.
or who are like, who seem like they would be okay with sort of giving you these kinds of books or this kind of media that you need. And I think that's also honestly a part of this book is Zed, like that's baked into this book is Zed finding these books, and
Monster
they
books
find
and
solace in the books that they find like online, and they find community.
the last word is that what we wanted to do was write a book that a kid could read, see themselves in it, or, as you said with Gabe, see someone that they know in it and give them the vocabulary to answer questions that they're already asking.
Mm-hmm.
And also have fun.
And have fun. And I think one last one
Yes,
extra
of
word
course.
is part of the thing is like Zed is kind of the coolest. Like they have so much confidence, and
Oh,
they
I
have
love
so
Zed.
much that like they're kind of an aspirational character for anyone.
Yes.
And I think
For
that's
me,
kind of right. Like that's kind of the point is like their non-binariness has made them, I think, so have to be sort of so confident because they're different. But like because of that confidence, they're then therefore like, I think basically any kid could read it and be like,
yeah.
oh
I
wow,
were more like
I
Zed.
wish I had that confidence or whatever. And I think the reason we provided so many characters is so that every kid can see themselves a little bit in everyone in the book.
Yeah.
So it's not just Zed and the non-binariness. There's so many different things that come up in it.
Yeah. Zed's a cutie. Big shaggy puppy. What kind of, wait. A
They're a golden
poodle?
retriever with a mix of poodle,
That's
which
right.
is ideal.
Yes. So, we will talk about this book with kids, and we hope the kids read it. And honestly, if you are someone out there who reads it and has a question, we will answer that question.
Yes, we're here for you.